Well, here it is, finally, my Venus retrograde report. So this beginning part is going to be sort of my point form, abstract themes that are all going to be covering because I have so many notes, it's insane. Venus has been in Gemini since the beginning of April, and we're not going to be out of the effects of Venus in Gemini and the retrograde until we hit about the first week of August. So because it is Venus, it is about partnership. It's about love. It's about all kinds of relationships. The ideals of love, the mystical, all of the different forms of love that have been articulated by the ancient Greeks. It's an amazing time for creativity. It's an amazing time for art, for poetry, for music. This is also a great time for digital communication. So if you're developing apps, software, there's a synergy happening between Venus and Mercury. And so anything that has to do with social media, especially social media, this is a great time for YouTubers. It's a great time for people promoting themselves on the internet. It's also a great time for learning, education in your particular field, whatever that is. Training, reviewing, upgrading your credentials. Excellent time for study. But this is the idea phase, the brainstorming phase, so that when the planets are moving forward again, we have all the information that we need. We've gathered all the tools necessary, and we can now proceed with a far more refined, reorganized, and workable plan to move forward. People who are on a spiritual path, who are stepping into their gifts and abilities in this regard, those who are seeking a deeper communion with the divine are likely going to find it. And then, the more vain things, because it is Venus and Venus is retrograde, it's a really bad idea to do impulsive haircuts, hair color, tattoos, all of that kind of thing. If you're going to do that kind of thing, it's because you've been working with somebody for a while on your design. Otherwise, you're really taking a chance. Be very careful about things like identity theft, especially if that's something that you've already been through. Venus in Gemini is going to stimulate a need for more freedom in relationships. So open relationships, all sorts of new sort of alternative ways to conduct relationships in this day and age. And, these things are already happening, but they're definitely going to get more support. Gemini is all about social. This is the season of the sapiosexual. So intellect is going to be an important factor in attraction. It's really not the best time to start a relationship. And in fact, it seems as though the theme of this particular Venus retrograde in Gemini is the kind of thing that's actually going to break relationships apart. We're looking at a lot of temptation towards toxic habits such as codependency, deceit, betrayals, acting out, and the danger zones for acting out are going to be anywhere from the last week of May through until mid-June. And again, there's this tendency towards impulsivity. And indiscretions, infidelity, love triangles. All of these things are definitely possible. It's not about preventing karma. It's about focusing on the karma that we've come here to deal with. If your relationship is not sturdy going into this transit, you're probably going to be dealing with a complete and total breakdown. But it's important to trust that this is divinely orchestrated, that whatever is leaving, the better you get at letting go of it, the faster you're going to get to your next destination in your story. The other kinds of low vibrational things is going to be entitlement. It's going to be acting out under the stress of being confined for so long. I'm also anticipating that by the way that the astrology is working, that something is going to happen in the collective that's going to actually make the lockdown even tighter. If we learn not to become attached to certain outcomes, we'll see that there's been a natural course of events that have been set into motion. So depending on your sign, the focus is going to be maybe a little bit different than somebody else, but these are just the general themes that we're all passing through right now through the collective. So how that applies to you is going to be your personal experience. It's ultimately your choice as to how you want to deal with the energies that are present for you now. So when we get to the mid-June zone, things are going to get pretty uncomfortable for most of us. That uncomfortability is about moving us out of whatever we've become too comfortable with. The other things that we need to be careful of is how we're dealing with truth in our lives and whether we're sticking closer to wishful thinking. But what all of this is bringing us to our sense of our own truth. We know what truth feels like. We know when we're living it, and we know when we're not. Venus retrograde in Gemini is going to encourage reason over passion. At the end of the day, self-love leads to better relationships across the board. Self-care is everything right now. And the more you take care of yourself, the more it's going to change the energy of all your relationships. It is your responsibility to put yourself first. We're all at different stages of learning, and it's going to be important through all of the tension that we're all going to be feeling to be compassionate to each other and to not get stuck in that thought pattern of, I'm in this all by myself. We are all walking a similar path. We're just expressing it in different storylines. So there's my all over the board themes for Venus retrograde. I'm going to be covering a lot more of these dynamics when I hit the new moon in Gemini report, when I hit June's report. We're going to be talking about Venus retrograde all summer long. So stay with me and enjoy your reading. Hey Pisces. And I figured this time, seeing as it was a Venus retrograde reading, that I would start from the end of the zodiac with you. So what can I tell you, Pisces? Almost called you Aries there for a second. Your experience of Venus retrograde in Gemini is actually happening in your 4th house, which would be more of a home and family kind of centered experience. So those closest to you that you share a home with are going to be the focus for this retrograde. You may be a little stressed about new beginnings, also stressed over money, and generally feeling more emotional because Cancer is the ruler of this house, Cancer is like the native sign, and then you've got the moon. So you're going to be feeling completely reassembled on the inside emotionally, and you're still going to be, kind of learning to crawl before you walk and before you run. So you're at a definitely almost like a regression to early childhood dynamic in terms of learning the new internal makeup of your emotions, of your emotional response. So as I said in the general collective video ahead of this, it's very much like being in school. There's a lot to learn about who you are emotionally now. You also have to remember that self-love is a really integral part of being able to survive and succeed this particular retrograde. So, cook more with your family, stay connected with them. Don't give in to the shadow aspects of codependency within your family unit, whether that's a family of 2 or more, or 10. You know, these things are going to require balancing, but you're going to be feeling more vulnerable. And so you're going to have to be super kind to yourself and be really, really good with your boundaries around, you know, your sensitivities as you grow and as you learn through this period. So I'm just going to get right to the tarot. And I'm going to do a 9-card reading with my Klimt deck. It's quite beautiful. Ooh, look at that, the wheel. Yeah, so big changes for Pisces. You know, you could be dealing with a change of home, change of residence, you know, depending on your circumstances and how your life's been affected in recent months. So let's get 9 cards. There's your first one. Ooh. Boy, there's your second one. I think oh, no, it's 2. Okay, so there. First 3. And 4. 5. 6. 7. Now we're cooking. 8. 8. And 9. All right, so let's see what the surrounding energies are for your situation. Well, that's lovely. We've got the 6 of Swords. So this is definitely coming into calmer waters, feeling generally a greater sense of peace. And it also could represent travel, although, as I'm sure I'll be covering in my near future reports, travel aspects not particularly good for any of us, really. So, but more on that another time. So let's see what we have here. Well, at the central part, Pisces is feeling successful. You know, successful at home, successful in community. So, fantastic. Love to see that. All right, so yeah, it's funny because the sense of success actually may be as a result of passing through a trial. You may be already in the dynamics that I described around the astral weather. Interesting. All right, so at some point in the past, it was like perhaps even with rose-colored glasses, this whole wishful thinking dynamic, you know, that there was an over-romanticized dynamic around a leap of faith that actually ended in disappointment. But it's kind of like the wisdom that you've acquired as a result of that experience, which was quite painful in its own way. It could have been a betrayal in love. Has you, you know, kind of, you're already in that. What is my truth and what is simply wishful thinking? But you're moving forward. You're keeping that momentum going forward, but you're not in a very trusting place right now. And perhaps that's, you know, that's part of what's up for examination. How much you trust or how much you can trust in your relationship or in relationships generally. So I'm going to clarify a bit here with just the Rider-Waite. And let's see the Success card. Okay, so, you know, a new beginning in love of some description could also be taking place right now for you. Let's see what else. Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of sort of loving gestures and offers and possibly even, you know, apologies in the past. You know, a lot of this is taking a very emotional tone. And, you know, sort of everybody in the situation now is feeling emotionally available and taking a rest after a very difficult time. Yeah, with toxic behavior, with temptation. Yeah, it's kind of like, wow, definitely a situation of temptation, possible infidelity. And it's possible that there's a cancer involved as well. Let's get some clarification on the Lovers. Yeah, there could have been a Cancer woman. And arguments, confrontation, that sort of thing around the truth. It's like the at the same time that the truth is coming out, there's a new beginning happening in love, like almost simultaneously. And yeah, it's like in the past, it was kind of like, gee, I thought I'd put all of this fantastic energy into this relationship, that I'd done all the right things, but I'm sad and disappointed, and I feel ghosted. And left on the outside. All right, so in the future, in terms of what will be juggled, lies and deception. Oh my goodness, and a leap of faith. So history may be repeating itself. There may have been a relationship in the past that started in this very passionate way, and this is kind of, it's very, very Gemini. We've got, on the one hand, we've got these dynamic, shadow and light aspects that are producing either, toxic illusions and delusions, or they're producing the highest form of love that's going to bring you into the next chapter. It's, all bets are off, man. Like, it's going to be up to you to make that decision. As to, whether you're making patterns or breaking them. Or both. But we don't want to repeat patterns, because there's nothing supporting the old ways of doing things anymore. So this could involve a young Aries or other fire sign, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. But whatever it is about the new, oh wow. Yeah, it's like whatever the new situation is, has got you feeling pretty goddess-like. And so this is kind of, you know, the thing. And I think you're hiding in your work to avoid really going deep on what's happening right now. So what are you charging towards? The Four of Pentacles twice. So you're not telling anybody what you're doing. Oh, Pisces. Oh, 3. I haven't been showing you many cards because I just want to tell the story as it lands. But you're planning something, and you're planning something very soon. But to everyone else, it looks like you're not doing a damn thing. But this is about what's calling to you from Spirit. You're clearing stuff out. Stuff has got to go. And you know exactly what it is. But you're not really telling anybody. You may be going back to some place that brought you happier times. So maybe the Six of Swords actually does represent travel. Yep. And wherever you're going, you're not going alone. Could be an air sign. Libra, Gemini, Aquarius. It may just be your boundaries and you have to actually go off by yourself for a bit. And this could also represent a call to Spirit that's being supported by someone from your past. Yeah, you've made the decision. But you're going to second guess yourself about it a whole bunch. So, yeah, this is a big burden on your mind. Wow. And the implications that all of these things would have on your home and family life. Interesting. So, I'm going to pull 3 Lenormands now and see what sort of symbolism we can get from them. Oh, snake. Lies, lies, lies. Communication. And hope. There's a woman at the center of this. You may be the woman, but the woman is likely to be a Cancer. But somebody is not telling the truth. And if it's not you, it's somebody really close to you. All right. Last and final card for this reading I'm doing something a little different. I just pulled the chakra cards from another deck. So we're going to ask, what chakra needs the most work during this cycle? Third eye. So you're working your intuition. You know? It's your internal guidance system. It's the still small voice. So I think you need to trust yourself. That this time period for you is going to be about trusting yourself. So that's a tough one. But I trust that you're going to make it through. And please be sure to tune in again, as I'll have lots of videos over the coming weeks to help us navigate our way. So have yourself a great day, Pisces.